Priority registration will be given to those who had a garden plot in 2017. That's probably something you should have done before the interview. They were throwing toilet paper and running onto the field. Join us for a week full of fun as we explore Manchester's history, He had ridden in a taxi and thought that he might have left it in the taxi. It was then I saw the face break through the thicket and realized it was a bear. He saw his grandfather walking toward him, his body filled with light. Usually he says no, surprised this would be so important. My paycheck for the 2-week period ending October 16 was $75 short. It was also so hot and humid that I could not enjoy the tour fully. That is, the data must be put in a form that the computer can read. The sales of fair trade in 2015 were twice as high as those in 2010. Delivering food to those who are immobile in our community. You must be available on these dates to be eligible to participate. Each of these relationships is necessary for the hero to take up his quest. If any members of it responded poorly, he would try different lines of approach. He frequently lost his voice while on stage and regained it later while resting. Had I been alone, I would have walked away feeling sad for that poor gal. Using his wealth, he began purchasing hundreds of paintings. One of the first ideas that might occur to you is that the sky has depth. The deeper we go into it, the greater are the disturbing forces we have to face. If Jean missed a day, her mother made her practice for 2 hours the next day. I thought maybe we were in the headlights of a big jet going into DFW. Hayden went to the painter's house and sat to him, but soon grew tired. Among these items are the map title, date, legend, scale, and direction. Only by dispersing will they find such light gaps. Memes, Dawkins pointed out, share many of the traits of genes. Eventually Kate reckoned she had the right consistency and put down the knife. Jade promised that she would not. Holding out his hands to him, Lincoln asked what the blotches on them were. Certainly, it's easy to tell when people are having fun. Collective tasks are those that most people would intuitively call a group task. Distracting yourself from unsettling thoughts is crucial. He had returned to get his bed and haul it to his new home. I think the agreement I made with the former manager should still hold good. But as easy and as effortless as this all seems, there are dangers to it all. The closest form of writing to speech is poetry, which is meant to be heard. He saw what he had been, began to experience self-doubts, and felt inferior. He found himself growing impatient for an answer, but still he waited. What we need to look at is the evidence to support what we feel. Unfortunately, with Dad behind the wheel, they were 2.5 hours late. He wanted to disguise himself so that nobody would see who he was. He said to him that he could ride on his horse to the next village. However, it is not just the wealth of local consumers that is important. It is hard and breakable and therefore breaks into very sharp pieces. The greater the content of sugar in an ice cream, the lower the freezing point. The environment determines what people value and what products they buy. A fit mind not attached to a fit body rendered both somehow incomplete. We're biological creatures who depend on the living landscape to sustain us. He continued on home, dragging the horseless bridle behind him. Mellister entry, postmarked no later than October 2nd. The rapid cooling of this material means it solidifies with very few crystals. In a few days, all the tests came back normal, which reassured Kayla's mom. Meadowlarks were flying, singing, off from the dew-wet grass. When looking for a beverage, you tend to drink what is available. When heated, refined white sugar liquefies. Only then was the scope of his diverse achievements fully realized. All contributions may be edited and cannot be acknowledged or returned. He also reported, surprisingly, that there were no stone tools in the area. So did the rise of democracy and an accompanying tradition of intense debate. The public sees the end product, but it's how you get there that motivates me. Its crown grows so big that it casts a shadow over the tree, killing it. Inside this small room stood a wooden table with low benches in front of it. It is important to recognize this nature of the human mind as its natural state. To combat this threat, you must be very cautious when downloading anything. Little did she know that she was about to take a 3-week ocean voyage. If I have a regret, it's that I should have been photographing Mexico in color. Many scientists believe that Franklin should have been honored with them. An autopsy showed an ulcerous condition aggravated by his refusal to eat. The prisoner spent his waking hours picking up rocks and digging up dirt. It's as if stating the rule is sufficient to explain why we did what we did. With taste being more or less equal, what is it that elevates the luxury brand? In short, knowledge held within traditional societies can be new as well as old. The highest railway station in Europe is located 3,454 meters above sea level. you inferred that the man asked his question of a cashier in a movie theater. It is the last comment that most clearly defines the role of the sports official. Too weak to call out to them, he stayed silent and did it in the tirades. Siblings know among themselves who has what talent and how each is treated. He longed to put it out, but he did not dare, for he feared the hunter's arrows. The piece feels complete and satisfying in the same way that tonal music does. Here, take this. Startled, the boy said, "Thank you, sir," and they both blushed. This type of reasoning is every bit as formal as that used in solving syllogisms. Doris sank down in the hard plastic chair as if that would make her invisible. Most were deep in thought, sitting almost trance-like in their bucket seats. There are all sorts of activities and options for kids' interests as they get older. One of the best-known proponents of this view is the ethologist Konrad Lorenz. Sophie sipped her own tea, every so often nervously glancing up at the clock. In order for your great performance to be appreciated, it needs to be visible. The insults of childhood and adolescence leave us tender in certain areas. This gave her the needed boost to start studying again with a fresh mind. It is a means for people to acquire the goods needed, or wanted, for living. It isn't any particular comment or technique that gets people to open up. It will not only keep you from trouble but also save you lots of thinking time. We'll cover 2 to 4 miles while at the refuge with an elevation gain of 650 feet. Springtime is here, and to most that means it is time to begin spring cleaning. Parents just can't keep up with 3 children as closely as they can with one. I contradict myself, and as corny as it sounds, I tell them don't be afraid to fail. The idea that negative feelings are harmful to us clearly does not hold up. The simplified structure makes them different than bacteria but no less alive. We gave him hay and water to eat and drink and kept praying for him.